Hello, this is Paul Ziliak. I'm co-founder with XK0, and I'd like to thank you and welcome you for joining us today for Advanced Mobile Sales for Sage 100, iSales 100 by XK0. I also would like to wish you a happy weekend before Thanksgiving. For those of you who are traveling, please travel safely, and I hope everyone has a great time with family and friends for the Thanksgiving weekend. So for those of you who might not be familiar with XK0, a little bit of background on us. XK0 started as a Sage VAR partner, a Sage reseller in 2005. And in 2012, we merged our Sage VAR business into microaccounting to allow XK0 to focus on our brand, our own brand of software development. And that's what we do today. So we're mobile app development experts, but we're also certified development partners for Sage 100, Sage X3, and for Sage 500. We also do custom programming projects in the Sage 100 space that's led by Elnor Kasim and our team of programmers, where we do advanced scripting, advanced SQL, Crystal custom development, integration work with XK0 web services, and things of that nature. Our product portfolio includes a Google-like search tool for Sage 100 that we call GetX. And if you have not had the opportunity to try GetX, I invite you to visit our website at xk0.com, where you can actually download a free 30-day trial that supports version 2000, versions 4.5 all the way up to version 2016, which I believe you'll find on our website effective today. So please try that out. If you're an end user, I encourage you to contact your Sage business partner and make sure that they're comfortable with you doing that installation. Another product of ours, this is a enterprise class mobile sales and delivery automation software that we call XK0 Mobile Commerce. It's primarily for companies who have their own fleets of vehicles and specialize in delivering products, a lot of food and beverage type companies. And that's called XK0 Mobile Commerce. The product that we're going to look at today when we get into the product demo is iSales 100, which we describe as the original and the best smartphone app for ERP. It satisfying really unique challenges with a great user experience and so on. So a little bit more about, obviously, about iSales 100 as we proceed throughout the session here. So Deloitte said in a 2014 study that was called The Dawn of Mobile Influence that if you're not doing mobile, rest assured someone in your industry is. And I want to point that out because we've certainly seen that from our own experience that distributors and manufacturers of all types are making the switch from pen, paper, and fax machine. And this is just a partial list of the types of distributors and manufacturers that we've worked with over the course of the last couple of years, and that list of industries just continues to grow. And it's worth noting that over 90% of the companies that we've helped go mobile over the course of the last couple of years were replacing previously manual processes that might have involved price catalogs, fax machines, clipboards, all of those kinds of things. And what we're going to see and what we have been seeing is that these companies are not going back to paper and pencil. So companies in every industry are starting to mobilize their sales forces, and they're not turning back. So we talk about advanced mobile sales functionality, and I'd like to put this in the context of Sage 100 itself. And this is an excerpt from a Sage 100 white paper that's a couple of years old, but it's certainly still pertinent. And it highlights a lot of why companies migrate from a product like a QuickBooks to a Sage 100 in the first place. And the way, in the words of Sage, they talk about customization, extensibility, and personalization. And how that really translates to end users is Sage 100 lets companies bring out the best in their business through the flexibility of the software. Now, in the mobile sales automation world, there are a lot of great applications that are out there, but most that you'll find are really a one-size-fits-all sort of mobile app, which means that if the functionality that's offered by the app works for your business, then that's fine. But if you need for it to do something else, it might not work as you would like for it to work. So that's why what we call advanced mobile sales is needed for Sage 100. And it's also why iSales 100 exists and why we built it the way that we built it, to be customizable, to be extensible, and so you can personalize it. A great mobile sales app starts with a great user experience, and that's long been a hallmark of Sage 100. And hopefully we'll see that with Sage 100C coming out, that legacy is going to continue. Most people find it to be a very easy product to manage, use, and maintain as they grow. An absolute number one thing that you have to ensure when you're deploying a mobile sales app is a great user experience. If you're not replacing an existing process, think about it this way, with something that makes the person's job better, then they're not likely to use it. It's really that simple. Aberdeen Group says in a study about mobile apps for ERP in particular that when mobile ERP apps are tailored to meet the needs of the individual or role in the organization, that's when you achieve high levels of adaptation. We've had a 94% renewal rate consistently on sales of iSales 100. So I think that we're finding that we've developed the kind of flexibility across different types of users that allows that to go forward. So, and it's certainly a strength of Sage 100 is in that flexibility. A gentleman by the name of Alex Bratton authored a book called $1 Billion Apps. And he's the CEO of a company that specializes in mobile ERP apps for large enterprises. And there's a quote in his book that says, linking apps to a company's back-end system, that's where it starts to get hard. And I think that's probably definitely the case when you're writing custom apps and if you're not expert in the ERP. But what we've been able to do is leverage Sage 100 in our ERP development expertise to create something that's really quite familiar and quite useful and technology forward at the same time. And that's why we built iSales 100, and it's why we built it the way that we built it. So what makes iSales 100 special is that the XK0 development team is iOS developers for Apple, Sage 100 Gold Development Partner, and we're also publishers of our own web services. And that puts us fully in control of the entire development cycle. But where the value really kicks in is for what it does for the customers. So, it has all of the things that you would expect, certainly. Customer access to customer information, a window into the warehouse with product quantity status and things of that nature, illustrated product catalog, of course, having a price list and all of that stuff. And great productivity ability too. It provides integration out of the box with the map, with the calendar, email, and the phone, and all of that. iSales, by the way, works with all the versions of the iPad except for iPad 1. We no longer support that. It also works with iPod Touch too. So with iSales, you can create sales orders, quotes, invoices, and credit memos. We follow all the Sage 100 pricing rules out of the box. We manage so you have visibility to inventory quantities and status, on order, on purchase order, available, and so on by warehouse. We provide open sales order, open AR invoice, and the ability to reprint those things on the spot if you need to. A powerful new feature that we recently added is support for lot and serial numbers. And we're also barcode enabled out of the box with iSales. And we're multilingual. So we currently have translation to Spanish language as well as English language. But if there's another language that we need to satisfy, All we need to do is have you provide a map for us for the glossary of terms, and we can provide that as well. But the beauty of iSales is that it's all managed in Sage 100 directly, right? This is how iSales really differs, is we have the ability to follow your rules better than anyone. So what we're looking at here is just a screen grab of what we call remote user maintenance, and this is where all the mobile app users get set up. And what we've found is that companies who deploy iSales already find that they know how to use it. They really don't need training. It's very minimal introduction that people need to be able to get up and running. In fact, we've seen companies install iSales and start using it the exact same day because we've got that same kind of ease. So what you see here, and we'll see this more in the live demo, is across 6 different tabs here, all of these different rules that we can set up to really personalize the experience for each individual user. And what that does for iSales is it allows us to meet very unique challenges. So I'm just going to walk through real quickly some of the very unique things that we do with iSales 100. iSales 100 is a great clipboard killer. So one of our clients who distributes ethnic foods, Indian and Pakistani foods, to retail stores all across North America, what they did is they provided for their top 50 grocery customer stores iSales 100 and with a scanner attachment to it. And this was all on iPad minis. And what they did is they pushed the responsibility of the order taking down to the customer, which they already did. But the old process was that each store would walk the aisles with a pre-printed order form and a clipboard, and they'd go through, they'd find the item on the clipboard, they'd mark the quantity. Once they'd completed all the aisles and flipped through all the different pages, they would fax those order sheets back into our client, where it would get rekeyed into Sage 100. Now, think about this. This is just for 50 stores that we replaced this for, but these are stores that place 2 to 3 orders per week, and the lines on the order could be 100 to 300 lines. Well, by implementing iSales, what they were immediately able to do is save over 100 hours per week in administrative time in their office, and they created a better experience for the customer, and they created better accuracy because there's no miscommunication about what was marked on the order sheet because that user is putting it in themselves. Here's an example of a company that sells artificial flowers and greenery, and selling at trade shows is a big part of their business. And so iSales, of course, being barcode enabled, this is a company that has products where they have a minimum sell quantity. So imagine when you're in a trade show, you've got a minimum sales quantity. You want to be able to sell very confidently to people on the spot. What we were able to do with iSales is define a user-defined field at the item level that's the minimum sell quantity, as well as an additional field for incremental quantity for add-on sales that you do. And now what the barcoding does automatically is it honors that field as part of the calculation to make sure that, when they're selling, that they're following their business rules. Here's an example of a landscape architecture and supply company that has a workforce that's deployed across the US. And the way that their process used to work is they would have their sales reps go out, visit their prospective sites, which would be a to-be landscaped environment. They would take all their measurements, they would do their drawings, all of those things, and then they would call or fax back to the office, which is running Sage 100, to share all of the information that they needed to back and forth in order to accurately get a quote from the installers about what the labor was going to take, and also to get those installers to validate the material quantities that were being proposed for that job. Well, we have iSales 100 integrated with a sketch application. And so what happens now is while that sales rep is out in the field, they're adding all of the materials as they're building this quote for the customer. And then they pull up their sketch app and they do all the drawing right on the iPad. When they complete that, that drawing is now part of the sales order quote that when they synchronize that quote back to Sage 100, they've got that information there and it's seamless. There's nothing lost in communication. It speeds up the entire process, and now everybody is looking at the same thing at all times. Here's an example of a customer that's a veteran that supplies medical tools, surgical devices, other medical instruments to animal hospitals, animal veterinary clinics, and so on. And what they needed to be able to do is track serial numbers for the medical instruments as they sell them. So they have Salesforce that's on the field, they have inventory that's on them, they sell on the spot, they need to track everything by serial number, and iSales 100 supports that out of the box. And then the last example that we'll look at here is for a company that sells beauty supply products. And what happened with them is they have about 600 customers and something along the lines of 8-10 sales reps. And a problem that they had was justifying the labor and the fuel expense to visit those most far-flung rural accounts. So what they decided to do instead is to shift the process, give the application to each one of their customers to order the products themselves. But this is also very much of a Spanish language market. So each of those customers is able to change their language preference on their iPhone or their iPad to Spanish language and to be able to order that way. And then what they did is they shifted what used to be an outside sales process to an inside sales process, where now all those sales reps, instead of visiting them in person, call them to maintain the relationships and make sure that those orders are coming through and are being done accurately. So what the great thing about all of this with iSales 100 is we meet all of these needs that we meet it all with one set of code. So we're not maintaining any custom installs of iSales 100. Everybody's running the same back end, and there are an awful lot of advantages to that. For one thing, it allows everyone to be able to download iSales directly from the Apple App Store, which is a very convenient way for companies. If you think about cloud enablement, Apple's done that with the Apple Store and iTunes probably better than anyone. Now, there are some companies who choose to buy what's called an enterprise license from Apple and do private distribution of the app to make sure that they're controlling when their sales reps are installing and all of that. But every version that we do of iSales 100, and we're on our 4th major release of the product right now, is backwards compatible to the prior versions running iSales on the back end. So here's a little preview of the app, and then we're going to go into a live demo environment. So one of the things of iSales that we do is we separate contacts from customers, because a lot of times when sales reps are out in the field, they're thinking of an individual before they're thinking of a customer. So they can search for a contact by the contact person's name and then go to the customer record directly from there. iSales is a native iPhone and iPad application, which means it works offline, which means you can use it anytime. So for certain things like the item quantity available, for the pricing rules and all that stuff, it's going to be as recent as the most recent synchronization that you've done. And as you see in this case here, where we've got 2 orders in the shopping cart, that needs to be synchronized before those orders show up back in Sage 100. But we have controls in the back end, so you can force a daily synchronization to make sure that everything is kept current. So in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see it's an action button, and this is where we can trigger new sales orders, new kinds of transactions, and things of that nature. And then beneath it, the add calendar event, emailing, mapping, launching the website, and all of that. I just want to point out that besides these, we also bring in customer memos and sales order memos and all of that. What we've found with a lot of these distributors is that iSales 100, and because of the nature of the iPhone and the nature of the iPad, that really companies are getting a lot of the CRM that they need without having to invest in a CRM system. They're getting a lot of CRM type functionality. And then of course, if you're using the iPhone itself, it's a great thing to be able to call directly out of that customer record and not have to maintain your own address book. So iSales continues to have increasing intelligence like open orders, open invoices. We keep customer last purchase history. We also have what we call hot lists. So every user can create favorites of contacts, customers, items, and all of that to create shortcuts for being able to find them. Already mentioned that we synchronize offline, and we also have the notion of these badge alerts. So every time you synchronize with iSales, what the app does is it looks to see, did you add anything new? So in this illustration here, I've got one new item, one new customer, and I've got 3 new contacts. So even when I'm away from the office, if I'm in a territory that's defined for me, when those new alerts come in, I'm able to tap on that, go in, see what's new for me, and just keep informed in a very streamlined type fashion. So, here's a look of an image. This right here that we're showing, these are inventory images, and we allow one of them, right? This is the one image that you can attach to an item master file. So that's what we're looking at there. We bring in standard pricing, unit of measure information, and then as you're shopping or building your order, quote, whatever, I mentioned we follow all of the pricing rules. So if you have customer pricing, item pricing, you're using price quotes, quantity breaks, customer-specific pricing, all of those things that are standard to Sage 100 flow through automatically to iSales. We show all of the detail by warehouse of the status of the inventory and even more. But hopefully that gives you a pretty good overview. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go in to do a demo, and we're going to look at 3 different demo scenarios. And the reason that I'm doing this is I want you to be able to see how quickly and easily you can create a user experience and push that out to the phone. So in my demo scenario here, imagine, if you will, a company that happens to have 2 companies, right? So they have a distributor business, and we'll call that ABC Distribution Company, and they have a manufacturing business, and we'll call that XYZ Manufacturing Company. So in our demo scenario, the first thing that we're going to do is we'll look at a sales rep for the ABC company who has pretty much full rights to everything within Sage 100 and the iSales experience. The second demo scenario that we'll do would be maybe a customer service rep who doesn't enter new orders, but we want to give them inquiry capability, but that's only for XYZ company. So sales rep for ABC company, a customer service rep for XYZ company, we're all under the same parent company, but we have different roles in the organization. And then the third demo scenario that we're going to do is we're going to pretend that ABC company has an end user customer or end user customers, and we want them to have the ability to put their own orders in the system as well. So let's go ahead and have a look at those different demo scenarios, and take me just a moment here to switch to my environment here. And the first thing I'm going to do, we'll just take a look at this setup here. talk a little bit more about the back end. So I'm in Sage 100 and I'm in remote user maintenance. So in our first example, to set up that demo user, we have them mapped to a company code called ABC Company. And then each user is also mapped to a salesperson code, so we know who's getting credit for that, right? We would set up their password here. This is interesting information, and we'll see this in our XYZ example, that we can choose to hide pricing or we can choose to hide quantity information in the warehouse just by checking that box for that user. Also, if this user is no longer part of our company, but they still might have the app on their phone, if the phone happened to be their own, we could just check a box and disable them, and they'll no longer be able to log into the information, and everything will be wiped out on their device. So for this demo user, we've opened this up right here. We put very little restriction on this. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get in another example, but we have given them a lot of permission here to be able to sync memos. We're showing them all of the different versions of purchase history, and we're showing all of the purchase history. In our restriction here, we could narrow this down if we only wanted to see, for instance, the last 6 months or the last 8 months or 12 months or whatever. I can restrict that last purchase history, but I'm going to show them all. Also, there's an option here for new customers, and we're going to give permission to demo to be able to add a new customer on the fly. And then here are some default settings to make data entry a little bit faster as we set them up. All right. On the items tab, we're going to push down regular items, miscellaneous charges, comments, miscellaneous items, finished goods, kits, and raw materials. If none of those, if I don't wish to display any of those for those users, I just check that box accordingly to take them off. Also, you know, I'm going to open that up. I want to not exclude. I want to include the 0 on hand and the 0 available. These buttons right here are if I'm doing barcode scanning and my barcodes are built on alias items, customer alias, or vendor alias, I can choose to have the system recognize that. And I'm not going to filter by warehouse. I want to give my demo user all of the warehouses. All right. Open orders, I can restrict what I want to show and whether or not I can reprint the open orders. Same with invoices, I can choose to show credit memos or debit memos or not. And then on the new transaction tabs, I have a lot of rules here, right? Here are the different types of transactions and whether or not I wish to give permission. So if they would never enter a credit memo from the field, I would just disable that box. And then the other thing, for the sake of speed, I can set a default type of transaction for that user. I can indicate whether or not I automatically want to have that put on hold and whether or not that user has the freedom to override during a transaction entry a bill to, a ship via, a terms code, and whether or not they can create a new sales order memo. We can give them a default warehouse. We can indicate whether or not a signature is required or not. And then number of other controls related to being able to change the unit price or the price level or the unit of measure, whether or not they're able to or required to distribute lots or serial numbers during the data entry. And then lastly, can this person enter an order on behalf of another? So this is my demo user, which has a lot of permission. Now, I've got another user that I had already set up here called Demo 2. So you'll see here, Demo 2, I simply map to XYZ company. And on my customers, I have very little limit. I've put no real limit on the customers. But one big thing that's different here, two things. I'm not giving them customer memos, and I'm not giving them permission to create a new customer on the fly. On the inventory items, I'm giving them no miscellaneous charges, no comments, no miscellaneous items. I am giving them all of these finished goods, kits, raw materials, and so on, but I'm only giving them regular items. And you'll see here too, my warehouse choices are even different because I said it was XYZ company. One thing I'll mention at the customer level, we can display up to 6 discretionary fields, including UDFs on the app. Then I'm going to jump over here to the new transaction tab, and you'll see, remember, Demo 2 is a customer service rep, and so they have no permission to enter any kind of order. So it's an inquiry only type of experience for them. So that's going to be the third demo that we're going to do. And then the last one is one that's going to be an end user customer that's called ABF. I'm mapping this one back to ABC Company. Jim Kentley is the sales rep who's going to get responsibility for them. You'll notice here, he's getting last purchase history and customer memos and so on, but this is the key thing right here. I can put additional filters on access to customers. So I could limit by salesperson by checking that box, but here I'm saying that I only want remote user ABF to be able to access a customer number called ABF. All right. I put a restriction for them on inventory too. I said miscellaneous items and comments, but they can only access a product line called DC, and they can only do that for warehouse 00, and we don't want to show them items that are 0 on hand or 0 available. They can enter a new transaction, but only in order. So our arrangement with them is they don't do quotes, invoices, or credit memos. They're only going to be able to create an order. They can't change the bill to address, but we will allow them to change the ship to address and to change the ship via if we want to be able to give them that control. So those are our 3 different demo scenarios, and we're going to fire through these right now. And first way that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and mirror my phone. All right. So here's iSales. Just come back here for a second. You know, that's what the iSales icon looks. And I'm already logged in. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull this up here. I'm going to click on my little gear button down below. In the gear button down below, I'm going to tap on About. And this is showing me how I'm logged in. So I'm logged in as demo. The company is ABC Company. That's the salesperson code. All right. I have a few other choices that are available to me down below. And then it's showing me all of the rules that have been set up for me. And this is really handy from a support standpoint. If you have a user who says, I'm not able to do this, that, or whatever, you can have them check their permissions. All right. So I'm going to go in, you know, and here's a customer record, and I'm going to search for my favorite customer, which is American Business Futures. And you'll see it's displaying to us the city, state, zip code, the customer number, and the customer name. And I can search for any of this information. So for example, you know, if I'm out, let's say I'm making a trip to Milwaukee, I can just start to type in a portion of Milwaukee, and it's going to go ahead and find those. So in fact, you know what? I don't want American Business Futures. I want Shepherd Motor Works. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that. So Shepherd Motor Works, I can shell out to the map, and it'll take me to that location. I can get my directions from there. I can make a phone call to them if I need to. Here's my purchase history, right? So I'm seeing purchase history, and I can sort by item or sort by date. All I'm doing is tapping that field in the upper right. And it's fully searchable as well, and looking at my last purchase history. I can pull up open orders, and I can search based on PO number. I can search by order number and so on. And I can see all of the item details for my open sales orders as well as my open invoices. Then if I want to do a new transaction for them, so remember, we're demo, so we have the ability to do a new transaction. So because I have the ability to do that, I've got a choice of transaction types. You'll see it defaulted to quote because that's the way I'd set it up, but I want to do a sales order for this. And I'm going to say customer PO number is going to be webinar. So I could put in a confirm to name. I have the ability to choose another salesperson besides myself. So maybe I'm at a trade show. It's Suzanne who got the order. I'm just putting it in for her. Okay. I can choose my terms, but because I gave permission to the salesperson, I can say, net 30-day terms. I could choose my ship via if I wish to choose my ship via. And you'll also see with these little blue dots here, this means I have permission to change that ship to if I need to do that. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to say back door. Okay, and I'll say I'm good to that. So that's updated that to the back door. So let's add some lines to this. So up at the top here, I tapped on all items, and you'll see that I have permission for a lot of different things. So I'm going to choose regular items, and it's showing me item number, item description, these 4 category codes. If you're a Sage 100 user or consultant, you'll recognize those category codes coming from the item master file, and that's the product line right there. I can search for any of these things. So if I'm a company and I have product that's a black something, I can search for black, and you'll see that it found that based on those category codes right there. So I'm going to go ahead and choose this item. You'll note it defaulted to warehouse 001. It's showing me all of my quantities by warehouse. I'm going to go ahead and allow it to be warehouse 1. My quantity defaults to 1, and it's pulling up my standard price of $84. If I change that to 10, you'll notice that just changed to $78.12. Now I'm going to change it to 100, and it's $75.60. And I'm going to go ahead and add that item to the order. And just for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead here. I'm going to choose comments. I'm going to choose that please allow 15 days for shipping. And I'm going to say that is good enough. I go to save the order, and it's not going to let me save the order because it tells me that I need to sign for it first. And I'm going to sign for it. And now I can save it. And you'll see back on my home screen now, my shopping cart is starting to fill up with one transaction. Now, I'm going to go ahead. One thing I want to point out, the little plus button, that's where I can go if I want to add a new customer on the fly. Remember, I had permission for that. And here's my Synchronize button. And I can do 2 things. I can do a sync all, or I can sync transactions. For the moment, I'm just going to go ahead and sync my transactions. And now let's have a little race back to Sage 100. So while this is working over here, there it is, 9, 10. Come on, baby. There we go. So it's synchronized there, and now I'm in ABC Company. And I'm going to pop over here, and there's Shepherd. There's my webinar. This is a temporary order number that came in automatically from iSales. Remember, I switched my sale to Suzanne. So there's my sale to Suzanne. Remember, I put the back door for my ship to address, so I put that in there. I have my 100 items at the appropriate price, and I change that and so on. All right. And that's the experience of a user called demo. Now, I could in real life, do this a number of different ways, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch to that user demo 2. So follow along with me at home. I tap on reset device, and it says, hey, I'm going to wipe you out now. So it's wiping me out. It brings me back to my login, and I'm going to type in demo 2 and demo. And I'm going to go ahead and log in. All right, and just like that, I have no customers, I have no contacts, I have no items. It's already aware of a couple other things too. You notice that plus sign is gone? I can't add new customers, and I can't add a new transaction, and iSales already knows it. All right, even when I hit my sync button, there's no sync transactions. Why? I don't have permission to it. So iSales 100 was built to, to help you with the workflow. So it helps with paperless initiatives. It helps with eliminating redundant entry, but it also helps with the workflow too. So you'll see that plus sign's just magically gone. My shopping cart, what happened to my shopping cart? You know what? I don't need to worry about what I don't have permission for. We just take it off the menu for you automatically. So now I've got contacts, customers, items, and when I tap on my little button here and go to about, you'll see now it knows when I log into demo as demo 2, I'm in XYZ company. Lo and behold, I've got now an entirely different set of customers here, right? I've got Breslin Electric, and look at this here. I've got open orders. I can see I've got 4 open orders, and I can pull up here and see that I have items and quantities, but guess what I don't have? I don't have prices there. Why? Because I said that this user doesn't have permission to see prices, doesn't have permission to see cost. When I tap on the action button up here, I can add a calendar event or a map, or I can call them, but because I don't have permission to enter a transaction, I've got a highly personalized experience that's set up for them. So I can go ahead here and look at an item. I don't think I have an image attached for that one, but you'll see there I also had no pricing available. Then my last demo scenario, I'm going to go here. Now we're going to switch iSales into, think of it as a B2B sales app mode. So a lot of companies have B2B websites. This is a B2B app, and companies are increasingly using this in this mode. It can be a very convenient type way to be able to offer business. So now I'm logging in as user ABF, password ABF. Once again, it's wiped me out, right? Look at that, my shopping cart came back. My plus button didn't come back because I still can't add a new customer on the fly. Now I'm going to sync all. It's going to rebuild my database. So every time I log out, you'll notice it wipes my database. Every time you synchronize, it wipes your database and builds it again new. When I'm locked out, when I lock that user out, same way. Okay, this should be about at the end of my synchronization. And now, lo and behold, I have 2 contacts, 1 customer, only 12 items. All right, tap on my gear button, go to about, and you'll see I'm ABF company. I'm back in ABC company. My user is ABF. I look at my 2 contacts, and they're both for American Business Futures. So I could go into Artie Johnson. I have all of Artie's individual phone numbers. I can start a new transaction for ABF company right from the contact record. And you'll notice now with the transaction type where it says sales order, that's the only type I have. I don't have quote, I don't have invoice, I don't have credit memo because I didn't give it permission to. Also, you'll notice I can't override the bill to. Remember, I have a checkbox, said no can do, but I can override the ship to if I need to be able to do that. All right. With a new item here, I've got the, I'll just go ahead and choose this item right here. On the warehouse, look at that. I only have 1 warehouse, and this is a different interface too. I have no quantities because I said I can see pricing. I can't see pricing. All I can do is enter quantities for this. So I'm going to say, I want 12 of these. I have no idea at what price, right? So this is just an arrangement that I have with these guys. So I'm going to add 1 of those, and I'm going to add, or I don't know how many I put in of that. We'll find out here in a second. 12 of one and 12 of the other. How about that? I know I'm going to have to sign it, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now anyway. All right. And look, oh, come on, Paul. It's a It's a sales order item. Sorry, folks, I blew that one. And I have I didn't license this properly for myself. Let's see if I can save it now. And I can't. Terrific. Know your demo data, Paul. Here we go. Let's see if I can do it with this modem. I'm going to do one of the modem. Oh, come on. I'm going to try one last time and then I'm going to give up. All right, that was good. I was able to save it. So now I have that one in my shopping cart, and I'm going to go ahead and synchronize. By the way, I have the plus sign there. I can do a new transaction. I cannot add a new customer on the fly. And I'm going to push that order in. And as soon as that's done, I'm back in the ABC company, and here's for the Artie Johnson, right? Automatically picked him as my contact person, and there's that one item that eventually I was able to put in. So I'm going to have to work on my demo data for that that product line, I think, and I apologize for that. So 3 very unique experiences, each one very easily accommodated by iSales 100 very quickly and easily. So I just have a couple of more slides here, and we'll wrap up and see if y'all have any questions. In terms of software licensing for iSales 100, we currently have a sales model of an unlimited user, unlimited company model. And the pricing varies by the functionality, so we'll be happy to provide that to you. But we have 3 different levels of functionality that we offer. It's a perpetual license that it's sold at, subject to an annual maintenance and support contract. And the starting price at the lowest level of functionality is $49.95. Again, that's for an unlimited user license in every one of the scenarios that we have. In terms of technology, device platform, we support the iPad, iPhone, iPod Touch, iOS 7 on up, Sage 100 version 2015 back to 4.5. We will have version 2016 coming out very soon. So I just want to clarify again for GetX. GetX is available in version 2016 now. iSales 100 will be very shortly. So the demo that I just did right now, everyone else can do that same demo too. I'm demoing off the same version that you would download through the Apple iTunes Store and be able to try out yourself. So I just want to mention we had a most recent version release about maybe 2 months ago or something like that. And this was our 4th major version of iSales 100, and we continue to build it and make it better. In terms of overall opportunity with iSales, we think that this adds up to being a great opportunity for you if you're a Sage partner or if you're a manufacturer or distributor who's running Sage 100. And that's frankly, the opportunity for iSales to be as good a mobile sales app for small and mid-sized business as you'll find out there, because of its flexibility, because of its adaptability, because of its incredible ease to be able to implement and support. So again, we do that by being able to meet unique challenges. And it's interesting about the flexibility because we can do more separate things. And I think as Sage business partners, those of you who are business partners and users who are out there as well will appreciate the fact that with iSales, there's really no implementation per se. There's really no consulting per se. It's really a straight software sale, a sales cycle where we go through and talk about what your requirements are, and we show how iSales 100 is able to fit into those requirements. But then typically it's an install that might take 1 or 2 hours, and then maybe another hour to do the training. But the setup, everything that we showed you in the setup, that's it. It's setting up the rules for filtering customers, items, and then the rules for each individual user for transactions. And we found that people take to it immediately. And we'd like to invite you to take to it immediately as well, too. Everything that we did in the demo, you can do. So I invite you to go out to the Apple Store and download it for yourself. Just search for iSales or iSales 100 and you'll see it, you know. And then this one you can always rely on. Use the username of demo and use the password of password. Hit that Synchronize button and you can just start using it. As a resource out there, we have a really helpful resource guide for iSales 100 that's on our blog site, which is called erpappsblog.com. What you'll find there will be tips and tricks along with links to videos and other such things. And then, as I mentioned, if you have any questions, please go ahead and type them in to the space available on the GoToWebinar. Sage Business Partners in the Eastern US and Canada, you can contact Amanda Lubert with any questions. Santos Rodriguez is your contact person if you're west of the Mississippi. Good place to reach us for anyone is at info@xk0.com or the phone number that's listed there. And once again, I'd like to thank you for joining today. Wish you all happiness as you celebrate the Thanksgiving holiday. And I'm going to take a look now for any questions that you guys might have.